Welcome back to the Build to Grow Mindset podcast. I'm John Mackey, founder of the Mackey Group. Every month on this podcast, I sit down with people actually running fire protection and life safety businesses. And this month, I'm doing something a little different. I'm sitting with two leaders who run the same business through two different lenses and who work shoulder to shoulder to lead it. Pam Gartner is the CFO. She lives in the cash, the margin, and the close. Clinton Campbell runs sales. He lives through the technicians, through the trucks, driving revenue. Together, they help lead Approved Fire Protection and Security, a central New Jersey contractor that's been in the same family for nearly 100 years. Now led by Diane Pine, an owner who is one of the best examples I know of, a CEO that works on the business, not just in it. This is Pillar 4, reporting. If you read this month's Build to Grow Mindset newsletter, you already have the framework, the 10 KPIs, the 4-level cadence, leading versus lagging. The blog gave you the model. This conversation gives you the reality, how reporting actually evolved inside one real business, which numbers earned their place, and what a Tuesday actually looks like when finance and operations read from the same scorecard. A quick note before we start. If you want the tool behind everything Pam and Clinton described today, reply "decide" to the main newsletter or email me at john@mackeygroup.llc.com and I'll send you the reporting pillar readiness diagnostic tool, a 10-minute assessment you can run with your own leadership team. So let's get into it. Well, welcome to this month's episode of Build to Grow and Build to Grow Mindsets podcast. This month, we're talking about KPIs and good metrics to manage your business, especially around growth. As you listeners, as you understand, the Build to Grow Mindset is a series of blogs, tools, resources, and in this context, podcasts to help inform, educate, share perspectives of how other companies have grown their business from a people perspective, process, business workflow, technology, culture, leadership, operations, and you name it. And today, I'm fortunate enough to sit down with some good industry friends. Pam Gartner, the CFO for Approved Fire in New Jersey. Hello, Pam.
Hello.
Yeah. And Clinton Campbell, who recently was promoted to the director of sales for Approved, but I've known Clinton for a few years and deeply rooted in operations. So hello, Clinton. All right. Like we do with every podcast, we're going to just kind of have a nice conversation about KPIs. We might get a little geeked out about it. So as much detail as you guys want to share. But really appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on the pod and share your perspective. So thank you and welcome.
Happy to be here.
All right. So I think it's important for the audience to understand a little bit of background about Approved, and correct me if I'm wrong. 70-year company?
Just shy of 100, actually.
100. Wow.
Yeah. We're at
All right.
96.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations. That's a great run.
Yeah.
And in Central New Jersey, North Jersey?
Central.
Okay. How many employees today?
Give or take 70.
70.
70 in New Jersey.
Okay.
But we've got 16 in New York.
Yeah.
And have another, I think it's 8 in Pennsylvania.
All right. A growing footprint. I know the story well because we've worked together on a few things. So it's fun to be a part of the process. How many service trucks on the road? Just to give the operator some perspective.
Close to 30.
Okay. All right. So that's good. I mean, obviously very respectable, and it speaks to your longevity, speaks to one, good fundamental business processes, practices, to good structure, good culture, and, a great story. Diane and her family, Diane's been running the business how long? 10 years, 12 years?
Yep, 10 years, about 10 years.
Yeah. Yep. So very good. Um, I think for the listeners, it's important to understand. So I've asked for Pam and Clinton to join me today because they bring two different perspectives, right? Pam coming from the CFO perspective and the metrics and the KPIs that her and her team look at to run the financial aspect of the business. And I'm not saying this because that there's a separation in the business, because I know your team is completely aligned, step for step with regard to how you run the business. And Clinton, I'm going to lean in on with regard to your operations experience and how the operational side of the business has evolved and how you used KPIs, to build it. And then number two, how to manage it day to day. And then through this process, we're also going to talk about the relationship between both functions, and how you guys have gotten aligned. And I'll let you guys decide of how deep you want to go in your organization with regard to, I know you've got extended management committees and a number of things that you do from a culture perspective to really get people aligned with, truly running the business. Right. So with that, let's talk about the last 5 years. If you look at your business, especially looking coming out of COVID, I think everything changed coming out of COVID. I'm working on an industry report right now, like the state of the industry and where we were going into COVID and how we came out of it as an industry and how the industry has truly, truly grown since then. It's been, a great story. And so if you look back at the last 5 years for Approved, what's the evolution been like for you from a reporting perspective? Have you guys changed anything, or where you were at then versus where you're at today? What's the journey been like? And Pam, we'll start with you. What does it look from a financial perspective?
Truthfully, the company has always been financially focused.
Mm-hmm.
Decision was made about 10 years ago to bring in a fully integrated system where every operational keystroke in the system actually drives directly into the financial statements. So from the minute a quote is created or an order is placed, or a truck is dispatched, a bill is paid, all of that flows directly to job profitability as well as bottom line profitability. So that is instantaneous from the minute it happens. But because it takes time to evolve, we've gotten better at understanding the numbers behind the numbers. So the basic income statement was always the main driver, obviously, gross margin and bottom line. But now we're able to better understand the components that make that up. So revenue, and then the expenses that are the costs that go right into the gross margin, and then dive into the expenses, the overhead, and bottom line profitability. And everybody is accountable on a department by department basis. So it's gotten more mature, but always the focus has been the income statement.
So that's great insight. So can we make a plug about the tech stack you're on?
Yes, sure. We're using ProfitZoom that's led by Balance Software. And we are happy. We're very proud to be part of the development planner folks for the next version of that, which is called Ascend.
Okay.
So we're going to start living in and testing and assisting with the development of the next phase of this software.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Like immediately.
That's great. Last month's podcast was on tech stack and, the things to think about as you build a tech stack. And there are the two thoughts, right? Either you buy a fully integrated platform, much like ProfitZoom, or SAP or NetSuite or something else. Or you bolt it together with regard to maybe it's QuickBooks or maybe it's Sage or Intact or pick one of the other financial ERPs and then bolt on project management software, bolt on a field service management suite, bolt on the software you need to run the business. And I think that what we said in the podcast last month specific to that was it's ultimately up to your culture, right? And your people, right? There are processes that you have inherently, regardless of the technology you use, there are business processes that you use that create amazing experiences for your customers. Okay. And your technology simply just enables that, right? And so you don't want to give that up. And so what we talked about in the tech stack guide was really understand how you run your business without the technology to then understand, make the decision on what technology platform you go with, because that has to align versus you change your process to go line up with the technology, which is what some of those bigger platforms force you to do. So it's great to hear you guys are at the table with a partner like ProfitZoom to build that out. So kudos to you. Nice work. And I wish you all the best in developing it, because I know it's not easy, but the outcome will be amazing for sure. So, Clinton, what was the first operational number you started looking at, and really latched onto, if you think about your evolution around KPIs?
So the big one, and we still focus on today very heavily, is tech revenue per day was a key KPI to focus on, right? So if we're trying to grow our business, we need to know that our techs are out there working efficiently. It goes back to making sure that we have the recurring work available. It's dispatched, it's scheduled on time, right? Make sure the technicians are starting their day on time, prepared, they're hitting all of their jobs and their marks, and then we measure that and we make sure X amount of techs times X amount of revenue per day will let us know if we're trending towards our revenue goals for the month or the quarter or the year. So that's the first one, and probably one of the most important ones that we follow.
Yeah, I think it's a great metric. I mean, when we gave the presentation in at the NAFED conferences, we talked about that. I've got clients that I lean into the revenue per tech per day all the time. What's interesting is that everyone wants to kind of put a different qualifier on that. So, for example, our labor rates in San Francisco are different than our labor rates in Albuquerque. And I said, well, just give me the metric. Okay, yeah, your rates in California might be per revenue per tech may generate, let's say, $600, or let's say give me the number. Say it's $2,500 a day, and then in Albuquerque that may only equate to $1,400 or $1,600 a day.
Right.
And so I still want the metric. Let's start to measure what it's at as your baseline, and then let's figure out how it grows over time. And I also think it's reflective of your market as it relates to how many techs you have, the skill set of your technicians, route density, traffic. There's so many other things that go with it. But I do agree with you 110% that revenue per tech per day is truly a good number. Have you looked at in the KPI guide that we have? We talked about it at NAFED as well. Revenue per employee as well. Have you guys looked at that type of number before?
That is short answer, no.
Okay.
Long answer, we're trying.
Okay.
I personally am trying. It's a really good number to know, of course, as you know.
Yeah.
A lot of homework goes into
Yeah.
figuring it out, right? So it's in the works. I think it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see for sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So for both of you, was there a moment, like either a bad month, a missed number, a near miss on cash, right? Cash is king, that forced you to, change how you measured or what you were measuring?
For me, on my side of the operation, I think we made a decision collectively as a leadership team to start growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was the point where it kind of clicked, right? And then we started figuring out how we're going to start measuring things accurately, so we can forecast, we can plan, we can go back and figure out how we're going to do this. What, as Pam alluded to earlier, what numbers feed the numbers, and we can start focusing on those.
Yeah.
So I think it was the decision to grow was the catalyst or the changing point. It might be different financially, but
yeah.
Well, what we've noticed is that typically there's a dip in August and September, or there had been a dip in revenue being driven in August and September for whatever reason here in New Jersey, at least. I'm not sure if that's something industry wide, but we needed to figure out for cash flow purposes. Thankfully, we're never short on cash, but we like to have it more streamlined. So we started to drive more visibility by job, by tech again, so that we could get rid of that strange seasonality and get a more streamlined level revenue by month without cooking the books, which we don't like to do.
Right.
But it was really like, why are we seeing? Because the operations do drive the numbers. It's never the other way around. And so if we were seeing a 10%, a 15%, sometimes even a 20% dip in August and September, we needed to figure out why and make that stop.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. Because you want to see the consistent cash flow month to month. Right.
Correct.
Right. You still have to make payroll. So, right. And a 20% dip doesn't mean that your bank account's going to be dry, but it does give you some, perspective to say, okay, what's going on? As a family-owned business, a lot of businesses live in either one or two persons' heads, right? I know how you guys are structured. I share the model with folks with regard to things to emulate for. I've introduced you folks and especially Diane to other industry connections to say, here's a model and something to think about, right? So when you look at your culture and your structure, give us a little insight about the alignment that you have through the business. We talked about the relationship between finance and operations and how you guys are connected, but keep just a quick snapshot about the structure and why it's effective for Approved.
Well, we're very transparent. Diane from the top down maintains complete transparency, company-wide, from technicians to service managers, operations managers, all the way up, right? She has an open book policy. Our financials are posted. We have TVs all over our office, in every office, where we go over our financials, our progress to goal, where we're struggling. We have weekly leadership team meetings where we'll communicate team to team on a high level on what's happening in our own departments, and we'll disseminate that information out to our individual teams. And it all comes down to communication. Everybody's on the same page at all times. There's no shortage of communications. I mean, you can't walk through the halls of our new office here in Somerset without running into a TV that has all of the information on it. So we just communicate. We communicate almost to a fault. A lot of
it. But to your point, though, it drives alignment, right? Everyone understands where the business is at.
Yeah.
I think down to the individual, it creates a situation where every employee understands what they own in that process and what it takes for their success, then supports someone else's success, and it kind of feeds on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah. Not only do we have leadership team meetings every single week, we push out our KPIs on a daily basis to one another. Those TVs are refreshed every single week. But we also have, I liked your word alignment. We have quarterly alignment meetings, all hands, where we review the financial statements. We talk about our goals as a company, and we talk about our progress against goals on a quarterly basis. And we also celebrate together. So we celebrate together. We talk about our challenges together. Everybody, every tech, the person that greets the people who call on the phone or who answers the door, to the financial people, you name it, the collections folks, everybody is in that meeting, and we all celebrate together and we all discuss challenges together.
Yeah. How long, I want to kind of understand the evolution of the culture, right? Because that doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, I made a reference earlier, Diane has owned the business now for 10 or 12 years. And so, what's that evolution been like, and how is the process? Because I've talking to Diane, just knowing how it's gotten better. Yeah, there's some things that kind of dip a little bit, right? Just really got to drama, noise, system, whatever, my alignment with the team, blah, blah, blah. But everyone's kind of rights the ship, if you will, quickly, right? So what's the evolution been like with regards to, one, how you use KPIs and the culture that you guys are talking about?
Well, from my understanding from the history, Diane bought out her siblings. It was her great grandfather's business, to her grandmother, to her father, to herself and her siblings, and now to Diane. So when Diane bought out her siblings, it wasn't necessarily the smoothest transition. And from my understanding, because I was not here at that time, she actually spoke to the leaders. It was a smaller team at the time, and said, "Are you with me? How would you like to see this company move forward?" Would you like to grow it? Would you like us to stay stagnant? Or what do you see, and are you in this journey with me? And every single person gave a resounding, we are so happy with the way you're envisioning the company and the way you're talking about it, that we're on board. So it was really a pivotal moment on a given day in time when she said, I've bought this company. I can't do it without you.
Yeah.
Are you with me or not? Thankfully, nobody bailed, but because everybody was with her, everybody embraced the change.
Yeah.
And the migration. And then, of course, that decision, like we talked about, to use that Profit Zoom platform, because everybody understood that even from a tech, the techs on the road standpoint, we need to understand what we're driving every single day, because we don't want to be without jobs, and we believe in the industry and we believe in this business.
Yep. No, I think it's interesting to see. I think the turning point was Diane's message to say, "Who's with me?" Right? We're in this together, and okay, how do we build it? And then the culture around transparency and alignment speaks to itself. Pam, how long have you been at Approved?
3 almost and a half years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It seems like I've known you for like 10 years.
Right? Right. Well, I've known Diane since college.
Yes.
So I've known the bit of the business and the family and family run business dynamics. And, always having been in the accounting realm, Di has tapped me on the shoulder long before I came into the company. So
yes.
I feel like
your brain. I got a quick question for you. What do you think about this?
Exactly. I knew of the systems, processes, and issues before I ever even considered coming here. So it's kind of funny putting the faces and the names to just situational matters that I'd heard about over the years. So it does feel like I've kind of been along for the ride for a long haul.
Yeah. Very good. Clinton, how about you? How long have you been there?
So overall, I've been here just shy of 6 years. And I say overall because I took a brief hiatus. I had an opportunity to explore a different industry.
Sure.
About 3 years ago. So I took that leap and I tried a different industry and stayed in touch with Diane and team. And then when the time was right to come on back in, she had an opportunity that I jumped at, and she brought me back in. And that was about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago at this point.
Okay.
But overall, 6 years through fire. Yeah.
What's your take on the evolution of the process around data, metrics, and the culture?
So prior to my recent promotion to sales director, I was sales manager. And then before that, I was in the field. So the evolution is a little bit different from my point of view. I didn't pay attention to it as much, honestly, when I was out in the field, right? I knew what the big number data was. Like I knew the revenue per day, like how much we were generating and how well we were doing to quota. And then when I got into the sales manager role, I started to really understand what drives these numbers. I came in right at a critical moment where this was all kind of taking off. So I don't know the before maybe as well as Pam does. But I think the KPIs have allowed us to be really data driven, which I'm a data guy. I like seeing the numbers and analyzing, taking action from them. And we have no shortage of data, especially with the PZ software that we use. It gets so granular, and you can tie all of that into these dashboards. Another thing you may or may not know, I love my dashboards. You can tie everything into these dashboards, and it'll tell me all of this relevant information, where we're falling down, where we're doing things really well, our progress to goals, how short we came up on a goal, and then we can go back and tweak things. So, like I said, my view on the transformation is a little bit different because I was kind of in a different role when it started.
But I think it's valuable for people to understand that, right? I mean, if you look at the makeup of most of the contractors in our space, the owners are still technicians. The owners are still in the field, right? And they may not necessarily have a full-blown CFO, right? They've got a bookkeeper, right? But yet those people, are trying to figure out, how do I, one, stabilize my business? We talk about working on the business versus in the business. How do I work on the business when I'm still doing service calls, right? And I think it's just how to understand how you make the switch. And I think it starts with, good reporting drives good data.
Absolutely.
Right? Pam, what was the reference you made? Operations drives the
numbers.
financial performance of the business, right? Not the other way around, right? Your team in the field and in the office is scheduling and dispatching and running, projects and quotes and you name it. That's where it starts, right? And it feeds up, not top down. Right. So that's great. That's great. All right, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. So do a little bit of structure around KPIs. I don't want to go in a deep dive about the top 10 or what have you. I've got a blog that we just released this week that speaks to that. So I just want to talk about your experience with regard to the top 10 KPIs with influencing KPIs. We talked about revenue per tech per day. We also talk about the strength of the income statement. You talk about dashboard, Clinton. You love your dashboards. I too am a data geek. But if I took every dashboard away and left you with 3 operational numbers, we talked about revenue per tech already. Which 3 do you keep and why?
So number 1 for me is new business installed.
Yeah,
and it's important to note that second word there.
Uh-huh.
New business sold is different than new business installed. And I say new business installed because that tells us how much we're selling. It tells us how effective our sales team is,
Yeah.
but it also tells us how effective the operations team is on executing on that new business. So
Yeah.
I keep track of new business installed number 1, and the amount of time between securing and executing and invoicing that revenue. And then customer retention is another big one for us.
Yeah.
We're filling the top of the bucket with new business installed, and
Yep.
We got a big hole in the bottom of the bucket. What are we doing, right?
Yep.
What are we all doing here? So
Yeah.
retention is a big one, and days to invoice. So cash flow is very, very important for a business like ours. So we want to make sure that we're invoicing in a timely fashion, just to keep our cash flow happy.
So here's a question. What's your invoice window look like? Job complete to your time to invoice. What's the time frame?
Less than a day.
That's amazing. Industry standard benchmark. We shared it at NAFED. 5 days. 6 days is more realistic.
Wow.
Right. But like the metric I shared though, the number you get it down to get it to around 3 days. On a $10 million service business that generates $320,000 in additional cash flow. Same amount of work.
Right.
Generates more cash.
Amazing.
Right? To your point, Pam, that's what we want to see in August and September. Right? And so you guys are a day, which is probably going to be best in class across the industry. Right. But I think it also speaks to, again, your processes, commitment to your culture to, making sure the work is complete and the strength of your tech stack to support it. Right. So that's great. So revenue or customer retention, revenue, but revenue is, I'm going to call it like a book versus build perspective or not recurring net revenue return. So for example, for everything you're booking month to month, you're keeping your number greater than 100% as what your retention is on that revenue retention. Because you don't want to dip. You dip, then you're okay. To your point, you got money that you're losing jobs or customers or something's happening on the bottom of the funnel, right? So, and in the blog post, we talk about some of those metrics with regard to invoicing, net revenue return, and then customer retention. So, Pam, the same question for you. 3 financial numbers, no more. Which 3?
Top line revenue always. Always top line revenue. Gross margin. And that for us, because of the complexity of the system that we're using, we are able to see job profitability. So it's not just bottom line profitability. So we're looking at that every single day to make sure that our margins are good.
Yep.
And also AR collections and, what our past due over greater than 30 days aging.
Yep.
So those are the 3 that we look at every single day.
What's your DSO now?
15.
Wow.
Yeah, it's low.
It's low.
It's low. It's low.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's again, best in class when you
Absolutely.
look across the industry. It again speaks to again how you're able to grow and support your business today and why your cash flow is so strong.
Yep.
So great work there. Offline, full disclosure to everybody else, because I'm also transparent. We said you guys don't fight about numbers.
We do.
Which speaks to the alignment of the culture, right? It's really understanding what metrics you want to use and alignment across the leadership team to support that, right? So, so let's kind of flip the question a little bit then. Is there a number you track that most contractors or industry friends that you all work with that they do not track, and ultimately it becomes an advantage for you? What's that number?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and a very timely one, because just recently I started focusing on which of our customers only use us for one solution or two or less solutions, right? So I want to rank our customers based on how many solutions we provide to them.
Yeah.
And then we could focus our efforts on providing them more solutions. And I think if we were to fall short on an expectation with a customer that only uses us for one solution, they are more likely to leave us for that than if they were to rely on us for 3, 4, 5 solutions, right? They're not going to want to upset the entire apple cart over, or they're less likely to.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So that's something that we're going to try to focus on a little bit more strategically and see if we can provide those solutions and capture that extra revenue and kind of protect our hole in the bottom of our bucket a little bit better.
Yep. Yeah. It's customer stickiness, right? And if you can create amazing customer experiences, and it's going to be more difficult and more painful for them to leave, right? Just because, the way that your team presents, feedback on a deficiency, right? On the job site, number one. Number two, the paperwork that the customer receives with regard to compliance, billing, invoicing, easy to pay, right? Visibility to their systems. I mean, it just really, drives, longer customer retention.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, it's the cost to change, and not just monetarily, right? The cost to change, like upsetting all of their internal processes and systems and building. Now they have to build new relationships and relearn a whole new thing. It's integral. It's very important.
Yep. Great. Pam, how about you?
I don't know that we're necessarily tracking anything that other folks aren't, but again, I'm just going to impress. Well, actually, you know what? We look at our AP, our aged AP, and we try to make sure that we keep that as a similar metric as our open AR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, matches cash flow, right?
Yeah.
What's coming in, what's going out, right? Yeah. And where.
And they're very closely aligned. So those months where we might actually dip a little bit further out on our collections turnaround, our AP, I don't want to say it suffers, but we allow it to lag a touch.
Yep.
Because it's always within our control what we pay and what we don't, but we might hold a little bit tighter on those weeks, I want to say, not months.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's shift to cadence, right? It's the operational piece, but in regard to just the operating rhythm as it relates to the teams, and you've made references to with regard to things you're doing daily, things you're doing weekly, what rolls up to a quarterly all-employee meeting as all around the umbrella of transparency. But if you walk me through, a real week, Monday morning, what happens? Who's in the room? What are they looking at? That type of thing.
Sure. Yeah. So Monday morning for me now, first thing we do, 8:00 every Monday morning is sales team meeting.
Yeah.
We huddle in our conference room. We go over some of their key metrics, what they sold last week, what kind of opportunities they uncovered, what do they have in the forecast for the coming week, the forecast for their month or quarter. If there's somebody that maybe needs some coaching or some direction, we might have our bi-weekly check-in where we'll just dive into their results and peel back and figure out where they can improve or why they're starting to slack or celebrate why they're doing great if that's the situation. And sometimes we'll increase that cadence, right? If I have somebody that's struggling, we'll move it up to like once a week or maybe even twice a week on rare situations. But so first thing every week, sales team gets together and we find out where we are health-wise, right? With the sales team and the new business revenue, and maintaining our current business.
Yep. Very good. What about from a service department or installation department and their cadence? What type of meetings are they having?
So exactly
Monday or a weekly?
Yeah, exact same thing. They do it tail end of the week. So they're Thursday, Friday, depending on which team we're talking. But they do a tail end of the week, and they do pretty much the same exact thing. They're going to go over tech revenue per day, number of stops per day, any inefficiencies that they've uncovered or problems they're having around scheduling or getting in touch with certain customers. There's this end of the week, Thursday, Friday, and then the sales team's Monday of the following.
Monday.
Yep.
Okay. And Pam, how about on the financial side? What's the cadence over there?
Well, since we're publishing our financials pretty much every single day, we close our books. We make sure that all of our invoices and anything that's lagging is completed within 5 days of the month end.
Yeah.
But there is no, well, obviously I close the books, but there's no hard changes from what's happening on the daily to what the month end is. There really is surprises, and anything that might have been lagging into those last 5 days into the next month has already been predicted, projected, and it's not, I want to say, materially significant.
Right.
So ours is, we're just turning it every single day. We're not saving anything. The billing team is not waiting on anything. We're not holding up collections or paying invoices to say, okay, at the end of the month, do we have enough cash or did we generate enough revenue to cover the expense? It's happening real time all the time.
Yep. That's great. And again, strength of your tech stack to support that, right? Right. And give you that transparency and ability to report quickly, right? So someone going on offline, generating some reports, to generate the income statement, right? No, it's already inherent to the system. Yeah. So that's great. Again, a lot of the KPIs that are out there is that always rear view, especially in the financial reporting perspective. What did we do the last 30 days?
Yeah.
Versus what's coming up in the next 30 days or 10 days. Right.
Yeah. I have to say, like, my prior experience was with corporate America. And we were spending a lot of time in the rearview mirror, and even bringing on those big SAP implementations or Oracle, it was still, even though they were calling it, 5-day book close or seamless book close, I can tell you it was not. And by the time we uncovered, because it was such a big machine, by the time we uncovered what drove the numbers, we were 3 days before the next month's book close end, and it was hard to, you couldn't impact, you really had to try to project at least a quarter or 6 months in advance to try to get that barge to move. And that's really nice about being in a smaller business, but then also having this, connection between the operations and the financial reporting, that we really can pivot by the day. It's refreshing. It's really nice from an accounting standpoint to see that.
Yeah. Well, again, it's where everyone else wants to be. All right. So kudos to you guys to get there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. How does Diane, as the CEO, how does she stay informed, and how does she lead without sitting in every meeting? What does she look at? How did you guys build trust with her? Again, Pam, you heard go back a long, long time. Clinton, you've known her for 6 years, but the trust that she has for you and your growth, is reflective of how she looks at her people. But the philosophy around working on your business versus in your business, help me understand where Diane, drives that, and then 2, how you guys have taken that and use it.
Sure. I think the trust, well, again, data, numbers, so you can't go through a hallway here without seeing our financials. She can look at those financials, and she'll figure out, right, where she can assume where the problem is, usually pretty accurately, right? And then she knows we're doing well. If I'm doing well, she can see in the financials the sales team is rocking it and kicking butt. So she starts to trust, and I report up to her at minimum every Wednesday during our meeting, but she can see all the numbers herself whenever she has a minute to pull them up. But I'll still report back to her, new business sold, number of POs acquired, tech revenue per day gets sent up to her, stops per day, amount of time techs are logged into service tickets, for instance, throughout the day or the week. So she has all the information, and I think she'll start to trust when she sees that, whatever you're responsible for is doing well. Then I know sometimes I'll go a week or two and be like, I haven't had a check-in with Diane. It usually means you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
It's when you have, multiple check-ins or meeting requests, right? So she knows and she'll make you aware, but she's great at trusting us. And once you can prove to her you understand what you're doing, how it works, and how to make it work more efficiently, she kind of just lets you do your thing, which is a beautiful part of working here. Like Pam said, corporate America, which I also came from in a different capacity. We have the freedom here where Diane lets you kind of flourish and put your own spin on things and build your department the way you see fit. As long as it's profitable, she'll let you do that.
Yeah. It's that entrepreneurial mindset, right? Again, let's, let people do what they're really, really good at and let them grow, right? And drive them some accountability. They own it, right? But then coach and mentor along the way. Clinton, you shared some examples with your sales team and how you guys coach and mentor your sales folks to, own their book of business, own their customer base, own their performance.
That's a big one. Should have to have ownership of your process and your results. And she does drive that ownership. It's on you. You got to own it. And, if you're kind of getting out of control, right, she'll kind of reel it back in and help you figure out where it's going wrong and adjustments. But
Pam, how are you? You and I talked offline with regard to, again, the working on the business, philosophy that Diane has set for the business. But, you made some examples too, that you also have the ability to work on the business, support her with some strategic initiatives and other things you guys are doing with regard to growth. How do you look at, that model and how you've deployed, some of the characteristics you see from Diane into how you run your department?
Oh, yes. Well, certainly accountability, which goes hands in hand with accounting. First of all, you have to build the right team, right? Then you have to provide them with access to you at any time. I mean, obviously, right now somebody's not going to call, but you have to give them opportunity to talk to each other, to train. You have to give time to mentor them, and I really feel like one of the main drivers is understanding the business that you're supporting. So we have lots of opportunities, for example, in the alignment meeting, and having everybody all in one building here where we understand what it is that we're supporting. So that allows us as accountants to make sense of the numbers on any given day. Yeah. And I really feel like it is driving ownership and trusting your people, allowing them to fail and helping them to figure out what the fixes are. And the more confidence that you give your team at any level, then the more they're going to step up and kind of run their show. Yep. So it's really a matter of not micromanaging, and just like with your own kids, you got to let them fall down and figure out how to get up again. And we are seeing, as you've mentioned, the fact that Diane is in an acquisition mindset and in a position now that she's doing that, but we're seeing that in a lot of the smaller businesses that we've been talking to, where holding on too closely to the operation and to the numbers and to the client set becomes detrimental. So you really just allow the freedom.
Well, again, we talk about it again, the NAFED presentation. You can't scale your business if everything goes through one person.
That's correct.
Right. And you really have to depend on your team to let them do what they do, so that the business can grow, remove those barriers.
Yeah.
All right. We'll wrap up the cadence piece. So from a cadence perspective, we've got a weekly department meeting. It may float between Mondays or Wednesdays, Mondays for the operations folks, from a Thursday, Friday for the service or installation folks as it relates to things going on. You made a reference to an alignment meeting. Where does that drop on the calendar? Is it a weekly? Is it a monthly?
Quarterly.
It's
Those
a
are the
quarterly. Okay.
Mhm.
So we've got weekly, I call it just department meetings. Do we do a monthly department review with the management team or the management committee? Because you guys also have a management, like extended staff. How often do they meet?
We're just moving from a weekly cadence to a biweekly cadence because
Okay.
there's no need for the weekly any longer.
Yeah.
You know, the weekly ended up because it was too frequent of a cadence, it ended up a little bit too much in the weeds, and it was
Yeah.
no longer working on the business. It was more like we're getting dragged in.
Yeah.
So we've just moved the cadence to be biweekly.
Yeah. Very good. And then the quarterly alignment, here's what we set out to do. Here's how we performed. And then you said the alignment meeting is all employees, or is it just the management staff? And then you meet then with the employees later. Oh, did we freeze?
You
We
did.
fro- we-
Partially.
We're getting a little choppy there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where we lost that question. So, and the alignment meeting, is the alignment meeting for all employees or is it just a management team?
All hands on, everybody.
All hands. Yep.
All hands
Yep.
on. Yeah,
Yep.
we'll usually take a stop around lunchtime, and then
Yep.
be 4-ish hours.
Yep. So that's great. That's
Yep.
great. All right. Let's see. When you look at, again, we talked a lot about alignment. I think when I look at, financial operation, the different lenses that you guys look, or even in this context, Clinton sales, and then bring them all together. When you look at that, how do those lenses, support each other and inform each other? Again, Pam, you talked about you guys are connected at the hip across all the leadership of the business. I'm going to make the assumption, but I'm going to hear from you as well. Talk about the collaborative nature and the comfort you have, Pam, for you as the financial lead to step in a conversation with Clinton from a sales perspective as it relates to, let's say, a job that you're pursuing or, an install that you're chasing. And then same conversation context wise would be from an operations perspective, is there it's the service manager or the project manager for a job where the group works together in supporting the business. Give me some examples of what that might look like.
Well, so for instance, if there's a large job that's being deployed or that's being considered, right? So it starts obviously with either customer outreach or some kind of a deficiency being, identified. From a quote perspective, we'll have to talk about resources, right? As a subcontractor involved, do we have a shortfall in equipment that might be needed, that needs to be addressed? Is it a job that maybe we want to get into that particular niche and it might be a capital expenditure that we might want to consider so that it's easier to do more of that type of work going forward? Or maybe we need some kind of training so that our techs are properly aligned or equipped to do that kind of work going forward so the sub can be eliminated. So those kinds of conversations do occur where we have a specific situation, but we need to pull possibly techs from other departments. We need to bring in the sales folks from a quote perspective, purchase order perspective. We need to talk to finance or accounting from, obviously the funding resource perspective. And then often I will be asked from an accounting perspective to review the quote and the proposed profit margin to say, okay, do we feel like this is reasonable? Is there something that we're missing here? And what is the leeway that we have? Say that something unexpected happens, like, I don't know, you hate to say these things, but what if there's an unintended dump? What if there's a car accident on the way or an injury where there's, it's going to be a cost to the company that perhaps we have to bear? So do we want to go with, say, a 40% margin? Do we think 30% or 20% too thin? But maybe we want to project and say, hey, this customer to Clinton's, point, he was saying we have one or two offerings with them right now, but this is going to open the door to us providing a whole nother segment of services to them going forward. So I'm hoping that I'm answering your question, but we do confer with one another. And I'm just going to go back to one of the points I made earlier of that's where the beauty of the finance department the accounting department understanding the industry. We understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish on any given day so that we can talk from an intelligent and informed perspective on, okay, well, this is what that means. Like, do we have excess trucks? Can we look into those perhaps if somebody breaks down or what have you?
Yep. I hate to make a corporate, cliche, but remember back in the days where we had to be business partners?
I was one of those.
I know. So was I. I used to do human resources work when I was at Tyco and Ansel, right? So an early career. And it was how do you create that business partner capability? And so roll that into what you just highlighted, you don't have to call them business partners because it's already inherent to the role.
Correct.
Right. And what you highlighted is a perfect example of, and I also know how you operate. You don't need to be in every room. Your team knows what is required of them when they're sitting down with, Clinton and his sales team, or, your service manager, or, your project manager, and vice versa. Clinton, you know what your team's expectation is and the support they need to give finance.
Absolutely.
Right. It's not, finance department. It's not the police and trying to handcuff you with regard to how you go sell work. Right. The relationship is how do we win more work and complete it efficiently. Right. So good stuff. All right. Let's start to wrap this up a little bit because I know you guys are super busy. Appreciate the time. But we'll kind of wrap it up a little bit. So a couple like rapid fire, quick questions, quick response type questions. So each of you get to answer this. One KPI you would never give up.
New business closed.
New business closed. Wearing your sales hat. I like it.
Yeah.
Pam?
Gross margin. Gross margin. Profitability by job.
Yep. Very good. One report or metric that is overrated. You may have to go back into the vault to figure out, okay, what did we get rid of? As it relates to metrics, it just didn't make any sense.
I think maybe I spoke on it earlier in our conversation. The number of meetings for new business reps, number of new presentations per rep per week. So we were measuring that KPI, and I got away from that because I was trying to promote more quality rather than quantity meetings.
Yep.
And when I had a KPI there, I wanted X amount of meetings. They're just taking unqualified meetings just to hit a number, right? It didn't make good sense. So
do a little bit more work on the front end when the lead comes in, qualify before you deploy, right? Mm-hmm. Really understand what you're chasing. Pam, how about you? One report or metric that you see is overrated.
I'm sorry, I'm a beat counter at heart. I'm not willing to give up any of my reports or my metrics, honestly. I feel like every single one of them is just, from an accounting perspective, every single one of them is an integral piece. We really need to understand everything from revenue all the way down to profit to cash flow. I'm not willing to give anything up. Sorry.
Yeah. Very good. All right. And one piece of advice, and I'm going to ask this of both of you. One piece of advice, for an owner operator that's getting ready to start this journey as it relates to just really understanding, this concept about working on the business, but where KPIs fit in it. We're making references in this conversation about the tech stack, so what's one piece of advice for that owner starting this journey?
I would say focus on having the right people, or more importantly, the right people in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Focus there.
Right seat, right people, right seat on the bus, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And even if they still align with your culture and your values, they deserve to be on the bus, but what seat do they belong into, right?
Yep.
And just really understand your organization. Miss Pam.
You know where I'm going with this. Make sure you have a good accountant or bookkeeper, and you have a good financial system to support your operation.
Yeah.
Without that visibility, you're not going to be able to drive anything. because you're always going to be guessing, where are you? You're going to hand it off to whomever prepares your taxes at the end of the year. And at that point in time is probably going to be the only point in time that you actually know whether you made money or not.
Yeah. And I think what we've highlighted in this podcast is, the strength and the benefit and the value of one, having a transparent culture, right? That's number one, helping your employees understand what those numbers mean and what role they have in driving those numbers. Number one. Number two, transparency with regard to sharing information. I know you're in a new building. How many screens do you have posted in the hallways?
We have at least a dozen.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere, including the lunchroom, the kitchenette, it's everywhere.
Yeah. So that's great. So transparency, and then, really understanding timeliness of reporting. Right, like you said, Pam, waiting to you file your taxes at the end of the year is far, far, far too late. Right, at a minimum, what can we look at weekly to understand what we need to adjust for next week? Right, but I know so many owners that may do financials quarterly, maybe do a WIP adjustment once a year, right, and have no idea what the profitability of their business is. And at that point, it's far too late to make the adjustment. It's okay, reset. Let's go after the next 12 months. No, it's got to be much, much tighter. So, well, with that, folks, guys, gals, I think we're good. All right.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the time. And I look forward to getting out to New Jersey and checking out the new digs. All right. And really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for having us.
That's where I'll leave it this month. A few things I want you to take from Pam and Clinton. Reporting maturity is a journey, not a switch. They didn't flip one on. They built it year over year on the back of a fully integrated system. Radical transparency and a CEO who set the expectation and then trusted her people to own it. The proof shows up in the numbers most contractors only dream about. Invoicing inside a day when the industry benchmark is 5 to 6, and a DSO around 15. That's not luck. That's discipline made into a habit. And here's the part for the investors and owners listening. A business where the CFO and the head of sales read from the same scoreboard and don't fight about the numbers is worth more than one where those two functions run on separate tracks. Reporting discipline is enterprise value. It's the clearest leading indicator I knew of how scalable and how acquirable a business really is. So here's what I'd ask you to do this week. Take 10 minutes and find out where your own reporting layer actually stands. Reply "decide" to the May BTG Mindset newsletter, or email me directly at john@mackeygroup.llc.com, and I'll send you the reporting pillar readiness diagnostic tool. 20 questions across metric architecture, operating cadence, data trust, and the decision loop. Take it solo, or even better yet, run it with your leadership team. The variance between categories is where the real conversation starts. You can also grab it anytime in the BTG Mindset Library at MackeyGroupLLC.com. Next month, we'll close the pillar arc with the Build to Grow operating system, how people, process, technology, and reporting come together inside a single 90-day rhythm. Thanks again to Pam and Clinton, and to Diane and the whole team at Approved Fire Protection and Security. If this was useful, follow the show, share it with an owner who needs to hear it, and I'll see you next month.